As many of you know, Sony was recently the target of a significant cyber hack. One of the results was that massive amounts of emails were leaked online and revealed several behind-the-scenes dramas with the company. One of the things revealed was that Marvel and Sony at one point were having discussions about Marvel producing a new trilogy of Spider-Man films and wanted Spider-Man in their upcoming Civil War movie. Those talks, however, broke down over issues of creative control and distribution. The emails also revealed that Sony began plans for an animated comedy film that would involve Spider-Man and be produced by Lego Movies' Chris Miller and Phil Lord. John, thoughts on all this craziness?
Well, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But there's nothing surprising here. Have any of us ever doubted that Marvel and Sony talk about Spider-Man? Have any of us ever doubted that, all other things being equal, Marvel would like to get Spider-Man back? Absolutely. But one of the things that I've always said is that, look, what is always going to ever hold up any sort of, merger of the universe, stuff like that, is the issue of control. From the beginning, I've said that. You can't get, if you try to put Wolverine into a Marvel movie, you're going to get Fox and them arguing over every single line. Which character looks a little better here? Who does this? Because ultimately, it's about who's in control. And I'm not surprised when you read through these emails that you see ultimately what probably broke down all these conversations was the amount of control, who gets distribution, who gets to control what the characters do and all that kind of stuff. And we've always said, too, that Marvel is in a position, they're in the delightful position that they don't even need Spider-Man. They don't need him. They're collecting money hand over fist with Guardians of the freaking Galaxy. They don't need Spider-Man, and they know it. They'd like to have him, though, especially for Civil War. That would have been great on many levels. But the game changed a few months ago when we started hearing about all this trouble Sony was in. Not Spider-Man, but Sony was in. And that kind of changed the dynamics to the point that when Marvel had their big announcement that the three of us were at, I tweeted the night before, I think Kevin Feige is going to come on stage and announce Spider-Man is back in the fold. And I'm sitting there in the audience right up until they said, "Good night, everybody, get out of the building." I was still expecting to see Andrew Garfield walk on stage. I really was. But that didn't happen. No surprises there. But this whole notion of that they might be looking at doing an animated comedy by Lord and Miller for Spider-Man, and apparently Sony is having this giant Spidey summit in January where they're getting all their producers and creative minds together just to figure out what on earth they're doing at their Spider-Man universe, because they've been going back and forth, left and right, and changing directions 1,000 times in the last few months that they don't even know where they're going with it right now. A lot is going to come out from this, so it's very, very interesting. But at the end of the day, not a lot surprising. Anyway, Christian, you read this stuff. What did you think?
Well, to quote Handyman, I think I'm in trouble. Those guys are, you talk about when the game changed, it really changed yesterday. Yeah. Because there's so much out there now. So much, all the rumors that we all knew were true, they are true. They're so desperate. I heard a rumor that they're trying to put 22 Jump Street with Men in Black at one point. They're so desperate to try to do something because, which we'll talk about a little bit, everything that they've had, there's a couple of projects they have that are working, but everything else isn't. So Spider-Man is their only saving grace, and Schnepp loved Spider-Man 2, but everyone else didn't really love it. A lot of people didn't like that movie, didn't do what they wanted it to do. This was our big property. So, of course, there's these negotiations with Marvel. Marvel absolutely wants him back. Like you said, they don't need him. But they know. They're just like, yeah, okay, make another one. Sure, yeah, make another one. And then the fans go, we want Spidey back in the Marvel universe. All the fans want him back. Sony has to make the best Spider-Man movie of all time for the next one, or the fans are going to start rioting. They're going to want to just put him back to where he was. We don't want to see your crap anymore. That's the thing. If you don't want him in Sony, don't spend a single dollar. That's it. You cannot make those movies money. If you want them to go back to Marvel, they need to lose the rights.
Schnepp?
Yeah, there was a really interesting article that then got pulled yesterday. I don't know, did you see it where it was Sony talking to Sam Raimi to come back?
Oh, yeah.
And then they pulled it. So I think they're gonna release that in a couple days, but
to produce
and or direct.
Really?
Yeah, to come back into the fold and take creative control back over Spider-Man. It's a giant mess. It really is kind of an embarrassing thing. We joked and conjectured quite a bit about a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff, but to find out that we were completely right is really horrible in a certain way, because I was hoping, they got some stuff figured out. They're going to do Sinister Six. They're not just blindly chucking stuff like Aunt May into the, you know what I mean? It's but it's all true. It's all horribly true. Right. That's the horrible part of it. So.
Yeah, that was my take on it, was that I was happy that Schnepp and I's Aunt May script did not get leaked, right, and all these things. I mean, that picture says it all. I mean, look at how sad those guys look.
Yeah.
Look at how boring that looks. I feel bad in a sense because none of this stuff should ever get out, you know? Like,
Right.
I don't think that this is right that happened, but now that you look at all these things, I think that Sony was making the right plays when they were doing anything they could with Spider-Man because they know that's really the only hot property they have. The Spider-Man cartoon to me sounded interesting, and again, I don't know how far down the road all these projects were when you talk about if they're combining 22 Jump Street with Men in Black and all that stuff. I actually like that there's creative people that are having meetings and they're just throwing anything against the wall. That's how you come up with great art sometimes. You just throw every idea you have and see what sticks. So I don't know how far down the road these went, but it's clear that Spider-Man was the hot prom queen, and now it's 10 years later and she's at the reunion with like 3 kids, chain smoking, and nobody really wants her anymore, or at least needs her like they did 10 years ago.
And I don't want to jump too much. I mean, like, Sony does have some good things going on. I mean, they've got the Bond franchise going, which everybody's very excited about. They're doing some good things. But yeah, this Spider-Man thing has been a bit of a debacle. Now, I'm one of these guys that as much as I love Marvel, I do not want Spider-Man to go back to Marvel. I just don't. I think the track record, they're 4-2. I feel like with the Spider-Man franchise, which is a good record, and I just know when you look at Marvel's lineup, if Spider-Man goes to Marvel, we're going to get one Spider-Man film every 5 years, and that's just not. I just don't want that. So for me, I would like to see them in a perfect world. I want to see Spider-Man stay at Sony, but I want to see Sony do it right. And if Spider-Man is being done right, fans shouldn't care which studio is doing it. I mean, really, if Spider-Man's being done right, like Spider-Man 1. Spider-Man 2, The Amazing Spider-Man 1, if Sony is making good Spider-Man movies, nobody should care which studio logo comes up at the
Do you
front.
think you can do? Sorry, Craig, do you think you can do Spider-Man right in this franchise though, with Andrew Garfield still as Spider-Man, or do you think that because if you reboot it again, that's not good news? Like, do you think that they can make Spider-Man 3 and then have that be a great film, or do you think they're already too far down that path?
That is the million-dollar question. I believe you can with Andrew Garfield, but even though I love the job that Mark Webb did on the first Amazing Spider-Man, I agree with Schnepp in this, in that I think the second one showed, hey, Mark Webb did his thing with the first one. You got to move off Mark Webb at this point and let him go on to other things. What do you think?
Oh, I used to feel that way, but especially after these leaks are happening and all the things that we heard before, James Horner just came out and said how it was a mess at Sony, and Sony kept the execs. I was under the same philosophy as you, is like, let's move on from Mark Webb, but Schnepp said last time, Webb might have had the right direction and the right vision. It was them sticking their hands in it and what it looks like, everyone reporting on it. It's Sony going, no, we need you to do this and this. And it's like, stay away. You're obviously making the wrong choices. Whoever are the higher ups there, whether it's Amy Pascal or whoever it is, they're making the wrong choices with that franchise. And what I was going to say, I don't necessarily know if what I think the fans would care about, even if they made the greatest movies, the fans are still going to say, this is cool, but I'd really like to see him interact with Tony Stark. I'd really like to see him. I mean, I think that's always going to be there.
It's so tempting just to have that possibility out there that even if you don't think that's ideal, it'd be really cool.
Especially if they make a great one. Because now if they make a great one and get a new Spider-Man, then they're really going to want to see him interact with whoever it is. I mean, eventually they're going to want to see X-Men go back there too, but Fox, as of right now, is doing that franchise right. That's why there's no questions about Fox or the X-Men. How come X-Men doesn't go back to Marvel? Because they're doing it right.
You know, I don't know the intimate workings of Sony right now. I think I've maybe met Amy Pascal once. I don't know, but I'm speculating here. Sitting back and just looking at this situation, I feel with this whole Spider-Man mess, and you read about all the things that are going on and things being said about Horner, all that kind of stuff, it feels like there's a decided lack of focused leadership. It sounds like they need a Kevin Feige, not in the sense that everybody thinks of a Kevin Feige as the guy who loves comic books and can make it all. No. It sounds like they need somebody who is this, I am the buck stops here person.
Even Kevin Tsujihara.
Kevin Tsujihara maybe needs like that, because that's what he's doing with Warner Brothers. Kevin Tsujihara stepped up and said, okay, you know what? Forget this mess. We're going to bring order. It's going to be this focus. It's going to be this direction. And I think whether it's Amy Pascal or somebody else at Sony needs to reel in this whole Spider-Man thing and say, you know what? No direction is going to get us nowhere. We need a direction, and let's just go. Let's get on it, and let's move. And
one direction. All of them
yes,
could be Spider-Man.
One direction, not
They're the villains. They're the villains.
Hey everyone, if you like this video, click that thumbs up button and make sure to subscribe to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. It's free and helps you stay up to date with all the latest movie news, as well as our daily AMC movie talk show. Also, make sure that you follow us on Facebook and Twitter to stay up to date with all of our special promotions, contests, and prize giveaways.